So, okay. We've met you before, Jordan, in this program. What were you doing before you started or took over a syndicate? What were you doing?
Yeah, so effectively doing the same thing now. I work quite closely with Dylan Cooner in Newmarket at Phantom House Stables, and run my own bloodstock agency, and kind of buying for a relatively small number of clients at the moment, but always looking to grow, and generally focusing on horse and training sales. My racing background as such is really just my granddad took me racing since I was very little, and I've been an avid form student from quite a probably oddly young age for someone that's getting into the same sort of line of work really. So yeah, I'm doing this the same as I am now, but I've also since April been working for the Tote, and mainly focusing on their French racing product.
Right.
I'd kind of specialise in French flat racing really.
Yeah.
That would kind of be my niche selling point as an agent, as it were. And I'm doing some writing a column for the Tote, French racing, and working for them as a customer relationships manager, dealing with some of the bigger clients or punters. And the Tote would have direct access into the French PMU pools, which is the kind of the main draw. It's exclusive access into the PMU pools from the UK. And generally it's great to be working for a company like the Tote that are standing to really, they're for racing, and putting as much money back into racing as possible and bringing the prize money levels up, which is obviously very compatible and complementary to the role I have as buying horses for clients that want to be racing for better prize money, as they are in France, where they're operating kind of a sole pool system in the country, and it's one of the main reasons why their prize money is so good. So yeah, that's kind of what I'm up to at the moment. And
So you're saying that,
yeah.
Sorry to interrupt, you're saying the horses that you buy through Quest, you would encourage trainers to take them to France?
I mean, not necessarily.
Right.
It's definitely look. Sorry, it's kind of thrown me off a bit, that question. But
Only because I've got to know Amy quite well. I'm the nurse.
yes, Amy does exceptionally well travelling them over to France. And
it seems like, why doesn't a lot of people do that?
yeah, it's a good question, really. I guess, like particularly the early sort of 2-year-old races that Amy and Lemos are doing so well with over there over the last few years. There's generally quite a lack of precocity in the French breeding lines, so they're
What was that word?
lack of precocity. So like how precocious and early their 2-year-olds are.
Oh, I see. Like maturity.
Effectively, that generally will have a lot more speedy 2-year-olds than on the ground here than they would do in France, just because of kind of the way the stallion base is here compared to France, really.
Okay, right.
So there's definitely a kind of a gap in the market still over there, which, like you say, Amy is still doing exceptionally well, exploiting, and as well as Matt Coleman, who I did a good few years of work with, who does a lot of Amy's buying and does a superb job as well himself.
Yeah.
So yeah, I guess the transport costs to go over France from here aren't very cheap at all, and if you are going over there with one, you'd want to make sure you fancy it.
It's a huge commitment.
Yeah.
Sure.
But also as well, they have like their French owners premiums system in place over there, whereby if a horse meets a certain criteria, effectively whether or not they're bred in France, they qualify for a bonus system where up until recently it was 80% bonus on prize money for 2 and 3-year-olds, 55% bonus for 4-year-olds, and 45% bonus for 5-year-olds or older, which is obviously just fantastic for those horses that qualify for it. Particularly 2 and 3-year-olds like Amy's taken over there. Some of them will be French premiums qualified, and you're effectively doubling your money. Which then you can justify going over there and paying the travel costs even more if you have a horse of premiums that you think is going to be placed or better.
Okay.
So yeah.
Let's go back to now. You've taken over Quest Thoroughbreds, you and Jack.
Yes.
So for someone who's looking to getting into horse racing and just extending like a race day that they usually go to, and they want to think about a share in a horse, what's the deal? If someone turned up and rang you cold and said, I'm wanting to get into a share in a syndication, what would you tell them?
Yeah, so I guess previously when you kindly had me on before, I was almost just buying for Quest really, and I put an awful lot of the client base into it, and due to that, having that invested interest from that reason, I kind of made sure I was involved as much as possible from a race planning and racing manager sort of role perspective. As you say, myself and Jack Thomas have taken over Quest, and it's now been put into a limited company between myself and Jack since early July, and we're looking to like I said, mentioned previously, I'd specialise in the horse and training sales and trying to find
we're at today.
Well handicapped horses that can improve. Like you say, we're at the Tassel September sale today, and I'm looking to hopefully buy 2 and package them together in a syndicate. So, for example, with that, we'd offer 40 share syndicates, the 2.5% unit shares, and the idea with this sale is I'm hoping to buy 2, one that's probably more likely going to be ready within the next few weeks, and another that might need a little bit more time. Package the 2 together in 2.5% units, and the monthly fee for the 2 to cover both training fees, entry costs, veterinary fees, and kind of pretty much everything all inclusive is £180 per unit a month. Generally, otherwise, for the horses that would sell alone, the 2.5% monthly fee would be £90, and then the upfront cost obviously just varies solely on how much the horse has been bought for, effectively.
And I know you work with Dylan Cunha a lot.
Yes.
But do you now have a group of trainers you look to, or you where to place your horses, or is that going to happen? To
be honest, like I've always said to Dylan since I've met him, and he's only been training here obviously for the last 2.5, 3 years now, that he had 2 or 3 horses when I met him, and I just said when I feel comfortable enough to basically buy horses on my own and put them with a trainer, I always wanted to support him and build him up as much as I could until he kind of, he was almost full, and he's up to probably about 55 in training now and there. Yeah. And I'd always, personally, I think Dylan he's an exceptionally good trainer. I've got a very good relationship with him, and we're good friends. So generally, I'd always like to support him first. But I'm always very open to kind of any trainer that would like to use my services for horse and training sales.
And he might.
And any owners that they have.
Would he and Louis perhaps tip you off on horses to look at? I mean, how does that work?
In what sense?
Well, ones you might want to buy.
Well, the horse and training, like I do kind of all myself, really. Yeah, like
that's your background.
Exactly. I do my card and those catalogues myself, and then all of the yearlings and breezers. Louis does that card himself on pedigree. Yeah. And I've kind of gone to the sales with Dylan and Louis, his dad, obviously, as you mentioned, for the last few years, kind of really learning my trade on the yearlings and breeze up sales more so than the horse and training sales, where I'm much more comfortable, because that's my ballpark really, particularly at the moment.
Is it because those horses can, as you mentioned, nearly start running and training and maybe racing soon after you bought them?
Well, it's only because the main thing you're judging from in a horse and training sale when a horse has ran is you're just assessing its form and whether you can find areas of improvement. For example, running the horse over a different distance, running the horse on a different surface, whether you can think they'd improve for a change of scenery, etc. Whereas at yearlings and breeze up sales, where the horses are unraced, you're kind of solely judging them on pedigree and conformation. And for someone that's not come from a racing background as such and been around horses from a young age, I was always going to be kind of on the back foot to begin with that. But I'd say I'm up to a comfortable level with that as well now anyway. But I've very much kind of been more at home at the horse and training sales, where I'm really it's just your assessment of the horses what handicap mark they've been allotted, and whether you think you can improve on it, and you set out a plan of how you're going to get that improvement out.
Yeah.
So I bought 5 horses in training for Dylan so far, and all 5 of them have won 2 races or more.
Really?
So I'd say we've been doing a fairly good job for the time being anyway. I'm not sure how long we can keep up that sort of strike rate,
That's
but
a good strike rate
hopefully
though,
touch wood. I mean, I guess it couldn't be much better. That obviously those horses, that not to sound in a funny way at all, but some of those horses have actually been disappointing in many ways, even in spite of the fact, or just in spite of the fact that they've won a couple and have still kind of given their owners some good days out. But I guess the best 2 would be Mark, that I bought at this sale last year,
Yeah.
for 11,000 guineas, off a mark of 63, where he's still a 5-race maiden. He's now rated. He just got put back up to 77 this morning, having won at Brighton last week. He's won 6 individual races now,
amazing.
and he's
And a
probably
great character. I mean, I know a little bit about him because he just, the way he bows his head running and wants to win.
no, he's a very tough, genuine horse. Tries his heart out. He's perfect horse to own, really. He always runs his race. We ran him in the 3-year-old dash on Epsom Derby Day even this year, which possibly wasn't the best decision on what the horse really wants, and it's suiting his kind of ability. Or that's a poor way to put it, really, but like a flat out 5 furlong at Epsom in a big field probably wasn't the best of ideas for him, really. But he'd already won 5 races to that point, and it was obviously a chance for the owners to have a big day out at Epsom on Derby Day.
Just a real basic question. When you said 77, that's obviously a number that means something. Can you explain that to me?
Yes, I'll try and kind of put it as simply as possible. But essentially, there's a handicapping department at the British Horse Racing Authority, and they will rate every horse in training in the UK on a pound system. So, effectively, the easiest way to describe it is if you have a horse rated 70 running against a horse rated 75 in a handicap, the horse rated 75 will carry £5 more.
Right.
And the ideal scenario, the handicapper is always trying to make the horses finish in a straight line, effectively. Obviously, that's never going to. Very, very rarely does it happen where you have like a 6-way go and they're all, out the line together, beating each other by a head, which is the handicapper's dream. But then if a horse wins, it's penalised before its next start. The handicapper's always trying to kind of give the horse a chance to win. But yeah, exactly. Yeah. Okay. That would have been a better way of putting it. Yeah.
All right. So you and Jack own Quest, and you've got eight horses.
Yeah, we've got 8 horses in training at the moment, all with Dylan at Phantom House, and like I said, we're looking to buy 2 today.
And explain the 2 you're looking at today.
Might have to kill you if I said that, but.
Oh well, you mentioned maybe what style of racing you're looking.
Yeah. Okay. So I ended up with kind of a list of about 12 to look at yesterday, and we've whittled that down to 4 or 5 that, if they're within budget, we'd sort of be happy to try and buy, but certainly wouldn't be. Sorry, I was just needing a bee in my face there. Certainly wouldn't be forcing anything. I'm almost probably too disciplined, really, at times in terms of the budget. But I think it's important to do that because, at the end of the day, the right horse will find you at your budgeted price at some stage. And if I continue doing that and work on the same systems and processes and whatnot, hopefully keep landing on kind of surefire winners. And we'd obviously, with the turf season on the flat now kind of coming to an end, we'd be looking for horses to be campaigned on the all-weather over the winter.
Right.
So Arc Racecourse has put on a good bonus scheme. There's various sort of ways of kind of attaining big bonus prize money, basically, which I won't sort of delve into too much now because it's quite complicated. But essentially, horses can run between September and April, the all-weather season, and there's monthly prizes, bonus prizes for the winning most horses, the top 3 winning most horses in those months, and effectively you get 5 points for a win, 4 points for a second, 3 points for a third, etc., down to 5th. And as well as monthly prizes, there's also a top 20 across the whole season. So we'd more be aiming for that really. And also, generally speaking, I wouldn't necessarily. I'd also kind of help with the race plan at Dillon's, and good friend of ours, Bob Stevens, does all of it now really, because it's awfully time consuming. He does a fantastic job, and I would kind of liaise with Bob on the horses and owners that I manage, and we'd kind of be very much of the view that you wouldn't necessarily want to give up a penalty kick as such at a non-arc track just for the sake of chasing the bonus. At the end of the day, we're after winners, and where those winners come kind of will be dictated on how weak races look at entry stage and etc. But
so if I wanted to join your syndicate, what part of these bonus schemes and prize money do I get to look at that? Do I get to see some of that?
Yeah. So I mean, if you have a 2.5% entry level share.
That's 2.5% of a horse.
Yes, you effectively you essentially you have a right to all of the royalties, the same royalties that a person would have if they own the horse outright, but you're only paying for a fraction of the fees.
Yeah.
So you get your 2.5% of any prize money owned minus the deductions that BHA take before they pay it out.
Right.
And you'd also get 2.5% of any of the sale when the horse is eventually sold, if it is eventually
like a
sold.
Footballer.
Yeah, effectively, yeah.
That kind of works in that way.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So
it's a per month fee.
Yeah, and then
2.5% at the very basic level.
Yeah, and then we offer shares up to 25%. It's great to have lots of people involved, but we kind of look to try and keep the syndicates as exclusive as possible in terms of numbers. Just because it's in a tighter group, it's much easier to sort. I've very rarely had a problem with sorting race day badges for owners on race days, which is obviously one of the main draws of having a share in a horse, really, to experience the owners and trainers' facilities. And also the great thing about Dillon as well is the fact that he has pretty much a completely open yard policy. You can go in at any time.
That's a great visit, isn't it?
Yeah, and he's got a great line, great team of staff, and all very friendly and welcome. And even when Dillon's not there, there's always someone on hand to kind of show you around.
Right.
And myself and Jack have got big aspirations to grow Quest Thoroughbreds Limited to a recognised name within the sphere, hopefully quickly. And I mean, we're going to hopefully end the year on sort of 10 or 11 horses, and by the end of next year our plan would be to get it up to 20 ideally, and that's only going to come with the result. So we need to I need to keep buying well handicapped improvers, and Dillon needs to keep training them well. So that's the plan.
Fantastic.